Welcome back to the Yaffee program. This is News Talk 770 AM, 92.5 FM, WVNN. Glad you have joined the show today. Don't forget to like the Yaffee Facebook page. Follow me on X at Yaffee or Instagram at Yaffee Live. You can also follow WVNN at all of those places. Let's end the show like we usually do. We have the Yaffee program rewind. It is that time of the show where I remind you, if you missed any of it live, well, the podcast will be up at the website, WVNN.com, or anywhere you get your podcasts. The beginning of the show today, we were talking about flock cameras once again and how I think I'm losing this argument. There are enough people outraged at the idea of flock cameras that they're going to be taken down in Alabama. The legislature is going to pass some kind of law against them. It really looks like we're headed in that direction. I was all for keeping them, but just adding more checks to it. Make sure it's not abused and more penalties if it is abused. But man, people just want them to take them down. So we talked about that at the beginning of the show. The podcast is up. We had the Alabama bullet points as well, the top stories from around the state, including Congressman Barry Moore running for the U.S. Senate. He says that because Democrats have embraced socialism and communism, that they're losing fundraising, that it's fallen off dramatically. So I gave you the details of that. The podcast is up. We also had Todd Stacy on. He is with Alabama Daily News. We talked about new Alabama ACAP scores in schools. And he says we're seeing some improvement, which is good. So it was a good conversation. Then, of course, I did the Sunday news show's recap. And, you know, a lot of this was predictable. You have Democrats like Ruben Gallego. They're saying the thing that we knew that they were going to say, that Trump doesn't care about the soldiers, but really the sailors and the Marines on the USS Abraham Lincoln. In fact, go ahead and play Gallego cut one for me, Bugsy.
Well, I'm glad they're resolving their problems now, but where was the leadership for so long that it got to this point? And I think later on he says, like, this is a problem of a long ago. I was just speaking to a spouse just about 3 days ago, and this is the current problems right now. And then it really goes to the deep problem here is that this administration did not plan for this war, did not plan how to get out of this war, did not really understand how this war was going to escalate. They were basically trying and hoping that this war would end up just like the war in Venezuela, and our men and women are now suffering the consequences of that. There's a deep mistrust of this leadership. The Secretary of Defense is absolutely not qualified to be leading the Department of Defense. And certainly the president has shown that he just doesn't really care about the troops. His lackadaisical attitude about men and women and their deployments, just kind of reflects what he actually thinks about them. He thinks about them more as toys and as ways to basically, show off or show its strength, but not the fact that they truly, at the end of the day, are humans, they're Americans, and they have families. And these things, these deployments, these wars have consequences.
All right, so someone texted in and asked for the specifics of the conditions. And I said, basically what I've heard is that they've had shortages of food, mental health problems, and they haven't been going to port as often as usual. Well, that person responded and said, I appreciate your attempt to provide details, but based on your response, you don't have them. If you don't know the specifics, you probably shouldn't comment that these things happen during long deployments. Now, it wasn't just me commenting. I was actually playing those who would know what happened, but I'm also just saying basic common sense that, of course, stuff like this is going to happen on a long deployment. But if you listened to the show last week, I actually reported on some of the specific conditions. But I'll give you what some are saying. So Blumenthal, the Democrat saying this, said, there have been widespread reports of shortages of basic supplies, water contamination, plumbing issues, deteriorating mental health, deck safety concerns, and disruptions in the mail system. So I said it was food and shortages and stuff. He added the mail system. But it's just common sense. I mean, of course I can comment on this. I mean, they're not reports that it's anything much more than that. But it's just kind of obvious what's going on. But, all right, if you want to weigh in, you always can on the text line. We did that during the Sunday News Show's recap. And by the way, this segment of the program brought to you by the Huntsville Men's Clinic. Go to HuntsvilleMen'sClinic.com. Guys, very easy to do. Get your testosterone checked. Really help your health. HuntsvilleMen'sClinic.com. Make an appointment. $99 for that first appointment. Tell them Yaffee sent you.
It's the Yaffee program on WVNN. the U.S. Soccer Podcast.
I'm your host, Megan Klingenberg, and after interviewing so many dudes during this Men's World Cup, I'm so happy to be back with my U.S. Women's National Team players.
I know the U.S. Men's National Team has changed how I think about myself, how I think about being an American, how I think about being on a team.
It's 1 year out from that World Cup, and we're going to talk about the brightest prospects in U.S. soccer. You ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
The U.S. Soccer Podcast, presented by Henkel. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
Mic Drop, hosted by former Navy SEAL Mike Ridlin.
What is your take? Was it what you expected?
Oh, it was the best thing ever.
It was something I always wanted to do.
If you show me a clear goal, I'm like, okay, I can do that. Master Chief, he's like, you realize there's about 1% chance of you making it through. 1%? That's all I need, Master Chief.
My platoon went home early, and I just went up to my chief, and I was like, I'm not going home.
Turns out I'm staying.
That's when we go to war. Yeah. I was like, okay, I could get used to this.
Mic Drop. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.